I was born in '85, and when I was 4 years old, my dad got a job with Toshiba near where I can't remember exactly where it was, but he got a job with Toshiba, and we moved to Switzerland, and I went to kindergarten there, and I actually went to if you've heard of the Rudolf Steiner Schule. So I went through Waldorf education till like third grade, and then my mom took me out and put me in public school in Lachen.
Okay.
And so I went to first and second grade by, at the lake by the Schulhaus, or, kind of in that parking lot area. And then I went over more towards the airport for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade.
Okay.
And then I went back to Schulhaus am See, where I went to school with your brother for 3 more years. And then in 2003, I moved to Houston. There were two reasons. My two reasons. I was 9/11 had happened 2 years earlier, right? September 11th had happened in 2001. So being a half American, I felt very like patriotic. I felt like I needed to be here because I wanted, just witnessing that, seeing that on television it was just crazy, so I felt like I needed to be here. So I was 17 years old, I was still young, and I was kind of like, and you grow up with American pop culture, right? Like, I don't know if you're during your day, but like when we were growing up, we still had like MTV Europe, Viva Swiss. They all played music videos, right? So I'd watch, like, we'd go home after school and like watch these music videos. I just kind of grew up with the idea that, oh wow, the U.S. America's like, it's pretty cool. Like, they do some cool stuff there, right? So yeah, basically like just wanting to like be part of sort of the U.S. culture, how we saw it. Also 9/11 happened, so I wanted to be here. And on top of that, my first girlfriend and we were dating in school. We broke up. So of course I'm like, I'm leaving. Yeah, so because my mom's American and my dad's Finnish, neither one of us was from Switzerland originally. So my parents got a divorce when I was like 6, but we all lived in Switzerland. So my dad lived in Nuland.
Okay.
And I lived in Lachen with my mom. Okay. So I'd see him, every second weekend. And then, yeah, so when I turned 17 and I wanted to come here, my dad knew that was my decision, that I wanted to do that. And my mom, of course, is okay with it because she's from here. So she's always wanted me to like come back here. When I left, my dad went to Finland. My mom and I, we moved over here.
Okay.
And, I still visit him every year. I go see him in Finland. Yes, I really do. And I'm really glad you asked that question. I'll get to the Swiss thing here in a second, but as you know, it's just crazy times we're living in right now. I don't know kind of what the sentiment and thing in Europe is about concerning the virus, but also we also have, the presidency going on. And so we just have a lot of factors coming in at once that can really, really test you. I'm talking like really test you, you know what I mean? Especially with so much, people distrusting the media. Yeah. But we don't, because they're talking about just random links. They're like, we're the actual media where we're actually like regulated and we have to present facts, and we're living in this like fact-free world. Sometimes it seems like, where people just sometimes, I don't know, just don't want to stick to them. And it's strange. But here's to my Switzerland thing is working in news here, especially this year, can take so much out of you that like, I'm looking back at my life and realizing that I think what made me strong enough to overcome a lot of the things that I've seen is my childhood in Switzerland, right? Because if you don't cultivate a child right the right way, and the kid is like always afraid, or there's abuse, or there's something bad in his life, the kid doesn't have a chance to survive when he gets older, right? I had the best childhood because of my friends in Switzerland. Like because we were all like, everyone came from good families, right? Everyone came from good families. For the most part, everyone came from good families. This is before the internet, so I mean, the internet was around, but it was like, dial up. So we would go outside and play soccer. I'd play soccer at the Schulhaus Seefeld, Lachen, and I would play after school. And we would, we got older and we'd meet up. We'd go to Bati, the swim thing. And we'd spend all summer there going swimming at the lake, and it was beautiful, the mountains and the lake and everything. And I think just having that cultivating like normal childhood, even though my parents were going through a divorce, it was tough. having that normal childhood made like set the foundation for me to basically be able to handle everything that came later.
Wow. Okay.
In life. I really owe them. And I plan on making a trip back one day, just obviously to see how everyone's doing. You know, I came here and I was like, oh yeah, I'm from Europe, and then time just goes by and suddenly you're just like, you're in the society and like nobody sees me as a European. You know, they hear my name, they're like, oh, where's Heikki from? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm from Finland. But because I don't have an accent, because I grew up speaking English with my mom as a kid, from like a child, I grew up speaking English with my mom, so I didn't develop an accent.
Yeah.
So to everyone here, I'm just another guy. Absolutely. They can. I mean, I think any culture in any country can learn something from the other. I'll give you a good example. Is, you know, one thing I like about the U.S. is we work really hard. We work really hard, and we can achieve a lot of great things. You know, like from sending a man to the moon to putting a rover on Mars. Like we can do some great stuff here. I like that hardworking mentality. And Switzerland, Swiss people, they do work hard, but the Swiss and the Europeans are smart about it. Here's why. They balance life. They balance life in a way where it's like you go, you do your job, you're a good person, and then you get off and you just enjoy life, right? You enjoy your neighbors. You know, y'all used to do bread and chocolate. That's like a Swiss thing, right? They would have chocolate and bread and they would eat it for dinner. I was like, okay, it's weird, but I liked it because they're so simple on enjoying everything that's in front of them. And Switzerland's such a beautiful country. It's easy to do that, right? Here, it's like people, especially in Texas and Houston, in the big city, and this is where I grew up, is in Houston. So I'm just speaking from a big city perspective. It's all about hard work and making money real fast. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I think if people in Texas had a little bit of the calm and reserve that Swiss people had, I think it would go a really long way. Yeah. One thing we don't realize is, you know, even though we're on this like one planet together and we're all like, you know, we're just hanging in space, right? There's one planet, right? But it's so different. There's worlds of difference between countries. Like just completely different, like the way people think, the way people are. And for me to have being able to see just both, but like to spend time, right? It's like I spent time and I grew up in Switzerland, but now I'm here and I'm seeing these completely two different worlds, because we all like the same things, right? We like, you know, we like nice things, but we like fashion, we like nature, and we like spending time with each other. Like it's the Western way of life, right? But within that Western way of life, if you were to ask me if there's any contrasts or differences, absolutely, it's huge. And it's something you can't explain unless you've lived it. Like I can give you the perfect answer, and you wouldn't know what I meant, because you would actually have to physically live through it yourself. Take that and apply that over here. It's really the only thing that's kept me going. And you know, it's emotional because I feel like I'm living in history right now. It's with everything that's going on. We've never seen anything like this. Not just us, you guys have never seen anything like this either. And the whole world hasn't, right? And it's not just a pandemic thing. It's just about, you know, information, the open web. There's a free flow of information. It can be dangerous, but we still need the access to the information, right? And if people just saw the big picture of what's at stake, nothing compares to this moment in history right now. And I can't believe I basically have a front row seat. And what got me there was my resilient childhood. Just having that put me in a position to be able to handle this, because I promise you, this is it's a tough, very draining time in history, and it's scary because you don't want to see everything that you believe in, all the good in humanity. You don't want to see that lost. You don't want to see it being overpowered by greed and capitalism, or just, you know, like greed capitalism. There's nothing wrong with capitalism, but it's the greed that people have. The idea that, like, you know, and I'm not going to talk on the global warming issue thing, but it's like, you know, we have the facts and it's a reality. Like, let's take care of planet Earth together. That mindset is missing. Everyone's so inward thinking, like me. What do I need to do? What do I need? We need to all work together. If we don't start working together, I'm not just talking about global warming. I'm just talking about in general, life in general. Like, wars are a terrible thing, just seeing like what ISIS has done to some of these communities in like Syria, it's heartbreaking, but Bashar al-Assad, like, attacking his own people, like it's heartbreaking. It's hard to see that and witness that. I feel like at this point, I don't understand why we haven't learned from our past, and realized like, hey, this didn't turn out good last time. Let's have a different approach, right? And it all boils back down to love and empathy. And it's that's something you learn as a child. You learn love and empathy. And that's something I learned as a child in Switzerland. If you're a good parent and you raise your kid right, then he's going to go out there and do more great things. And I'm not saying I've done anything fantastic or spectacular. I haven't, but I get to be around people that do. And it's pretty inspiring. I did not always know that. When I came here in 2003, I liked the idea of, I didn't know what I wanted to do. First I wanted to be an architect because I like the idea of drawing and building stuff. Then I wanted to go into business because you just hear the word business and you're just like, oh, cool. And, but during this whole time, I've always done photography. I've always done photography, just still photography. And it was my way of getting out and just kind of being in my own mind, in my own zone, and taking pictures, right? It was like my hobby. And I started getting a little better at it. And eventually, it was only about 5 or 6 years ago, I had an opportunity to do some video work at a news station in Houston. And they needed I went there for a couple months or whatever, and they didn't really need me after that, but they got back to me later. 2 years later, they got back to me and says, we have an open videographer position for the news. And I went from just taking photos to really getting into what I love doing, which is basically, to answer your question, you know it when you know it. Like, you know that you love doing what you do when you have that moment and you're like, wow, like, the moments I realized this is like what I need to be doing. Well, I'd say it's about half and half. So half of it's, the things you get to see, the things you get to witness. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. The chances, I got to cover Super Bowl 51. I got to be on the field and film it. The chances of being on the field, the chances of making it to the game is almost zero, unless you're super rich, right? When you're there and you look around and you realize you're around like some of the best athletes in the world, but also just that moment, it reassures you that like there's no other place I would rather be right now than here. The whole point of the press is to hold people accountable, right? If somebody does something bad or wrong, or there's corruption or something, it's our job as a press to present, okay, here's what happened, and then people can take it from there. But we have the right to put the information out so people know what's going on. When I sometimes do stories on people that just they were done wrong, they were either hurt or cheated out of something, or something happened to them that's not right, and they have no chance of getting their voice out there. When I get to show up and mic them up, and my reporter, or sometimes I'll do the interview, I get to talk to them. The moment of joy and happiness on their face, knowing that somebody's listening to them and somebody's hearing their concern, and this is their chance to say what happened. That's a good feeling. Like, you can't purchase, you can't buy, you can't rent it. It comes naturally. Real quick, the current challenges are, that there's a very big trust in the media, unfortunately, and we try to do the right thing. We go out there and tell the truth, and people just need to understand the difference between media versus a YouTube channel. Or people see just any link online and it's like, oh, that's media. But no, it's not media. It's a form of media, but the press, the actual press, that has to put facts out there and that has to convey information. I'm part of that, and we get thrown into the same boat. So it's challenging when people see me, and it's tense times in America right now on both sides. And sometimes I'll get the blame. People see me on the street and they'll call me out, or my reporter, because they see a camera, and they're mad at the situation. But when there's nobody else to blame, but
You're blaming.
There's the media, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I get the, you know, I get the brunt of that, when in reality, I'm there to tell the truth and and just show the facts and try to inform people so people can stay safe and let, you know, people can know what's going on. The other challenges are just, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. I've seen in Houston, you know, I would see 1 or 2 dead bodies a month just from a scene. You know, we'd get the call and we show up and there's police, you know, and sometimes you see a white sheet laying there. When you do stories about people losing children, like, that's very tough too.
Yeah.
So when you cover all these like traumatic events where you're talking to the person that saw it or witnessed it, it spills over a little bit. It spills over, and you have to like just keep a positive mindset, because it can, you know, it can really, there's some dark, it's a dark world out there, you know, and if you think about it too much, it can bring you down. I think people forget that behind the lens, there's a person. And even though the camera is seeing all that stuff, the person is also witnessing it because they're right there. If we lived in a world where nobody's allowed to put out information, well then, you know, I mean, there'll be no different than like North Korea, where it's like, if you say something, you know, it could cost you your life. And then corruption will just flourish because nobody can say anything. I can do what I want and nobody's going to call me out. Without press and without media, it will be terrible for everybody, because anybody could try to hurt you and do something against you, whether it's stealing your money or whatever, and, you know, or your business or whatever, and there would be no accountability. As a person of the media, unfortunately, I can't comment on that, but I can say one thing that I can say is, I think the people out there are wanting to basically, what's important to everybody is their personal life. Everybody really is, regardless of what happens in politics, everybody wants the same thing. Everyone wants life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what people want. And we get so taken into these political narratives over like what's happening in Washington, when in reality, what really affects you is your local government. Your local government, what happens in your city and your state, that's what will affect people directly. I wish people would pay a little bit more attention on on local government and keep up with that, because that's what affects, you know, your children's school, you know, your commute to work, the traffic situation, the roads, the infrastructure, all that's locally, to where it's exhausting. And I've honestly thought about going back, you know, to Europe. I mean, that's been in the back of my head now, because it's just, I don't know, the times now aren't the same as they were in 2003. I'm not, that love, that bond, that unity, it's not there.
Okay.
There's a divide. There's a permanent divide, and I don't think it's going to go away. One of the craziest things I really have done was, the president came into town in February. It was January of this year. And I got lucky, and I got to go to the airfield, get the plane, Air Force One landing.
Right.
And as soon as the president got in, and I got him, you know, coming down the stairs, and as soon as he got in the car, we ran to the media. Like, everyone went to the different vans, the cars, and we went into the media van. And I basically got to drive in the motorcade, like in the presidential motorcade, not in his car, but like in the cars. I was like in that. We went from the airport downtown Austin, and then back to the airport.
Okay.
And the other journalist I was with, it wasn't actually the local journalist. It was the White House press corps. So it was the people in the, you know, in the, I forgot where they hold the press conferences there, the West Wing or the press room. Yeah, the press room. I was with them in the cars, like driving, you know, and there's police everywhere, SWAT. I'm just like, wow, this is like a Jason Bourne movie. Are the ones where there's a good result in the end, where something becomes of it. When I read, I'll give you an example. We have a segment here called Forever Families. Basically, one of our reporters, every week she does a story about a child who is in a foster home, and we do a story. You know, we film it and we put it together, and then we'll air it on TV. So all these people in Austin or in Central Texas that see the story, maybe one of those people wants to adopt, but maybe they're afraid because they don't know what to do, and they're hesitant, right? But they see the story and they love this kid, and they're like, you know what, I can give that kid a home.
Yeah.
So that's the best rewarding thing, when somebody sees something and somebody's life becomes better because of what they saw, something that I filmed, put together, or my reporter. I interviewed, oh man, this is a tough one. I can't remember her age. I think she was like 98 or something, but she was, get this, she was actually at Auschwitz as a little girl.
Okay.
She was in 3 different camps in Auschwitz. And her sister, younger sister, ended up dying as a little, when they were little kids. Her sister died.
Wow.
And she's sitting there, and she was giving a speech before I interviewed her, and I was the only one to interview her. I was the only media there, but she was giving a speech at a school, and she was telling the kids how she remembers the Russians coming in, telling them they're free, they're okay, they're safe, right? So she remembers as a little girl the Russians coming in after the Germans had left, the Russians coming in, and that was when she realized it's over, it's over. So just like hearing that, and then like afterwards I interviewed her, and like I have a photo with her. She's adorable. Like I'm talking to like living history right here. Like you are living history. As far as cool factor impressive, 2016 I was in the media zone for a basketball game, and Michael Jordan was right there, like in the same little media zone. So it's like me and like a bunch of people, but we're all like I mean, he's like right there. It's just, yeah, it's just like that moment where you're just like, wow, like you're Michael Jordan. The other one is Argentina played USA in Houston for a international friendly. And I was in the mixed media zone, and, you're standing there, and next thing you know, Lionel Messi's walking by and stopping right in front of you. Just like, I don't speak Spanish, but, and he's answering in Spanish, and our show was in English. Like our newscast was in English, obviously, because we're in Houston. I'm just like, I don't care, I'm getting this. So I'm literally holding my mic up to Lionel Messi, which, I mean, he's one of the most recognized faces. Even in the U.S., people don't really know who he is. I mean, it's Lionel Messi. I mean, he's as recognized as a Michael Jordan or as a Cristiano Ronaldo. So I was impressed just by them just being there and realizing who they are and how great they are at their craft. It's pretty inspiring. It's pretty cool.